if you can go to travel to Italy or places in Europe, Roundup is banned. So a lot of people can eat pizza and bread and pastas and all kinds of desserts. And they're like, I don't feel sick. I don't get bloated. I don't have any joint pain. Wow, what is this? I'm having a great time. Well, they don't have Roundup in any of their grains. And also genetically modified foods are actually illegal over there. And so then they come back home and they're thinking, I'm fine. I feel great. And they start eating the way they've been eating over in Italy. And also the bloating comes back, the joint pain comes back, the brain fog is back. And it's just a vicious cycle.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Light Beyond Limits, the podcast where we talk about the stories and the breakthroughs that people have had with their own limitations and the lessons that they learned from it. My name is William Blake, and today I have a very special guest, someone who has, in my opinion, done a lot in the health industry, Miss Renee Mohr, who is a mother, and I'm going to mess this up, iridologist, as well as a health coach who is making a major impact in the industry today. So, Renee, first and foremost, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, William. And it's great to be here and to learn more about what you do.
Yeah. Well, we're going to learn more about what you do because this episode is about you, right? But we're just going to have a really good discussion today. To start off, Renee, I want my audience and me to hear it again. I just want to hear, what is your story?
My story starts back when I was really young. When I was 9 years old, I received a flu vaccine shot, and 6 months later, I started having seizures. So the first one I had not been breathing for 5 minutes. It was a pretty severe one. My dad learned CPR on me, and it was Christmas night. Parents thought afterwards I didn't have any more for a few years and everything was good. They were going to take me off medications, and then teenage years started in and the seizures started being more regular. So over the next 30 years, I learned that I had pretty much all the side effects that I could have from medications. So the brain fog, the depression, the extreme fatigue, tiredness, really unmotivated. Everything was a challenge. Going to school, trying to absorb and use the information being taught in each class, just nothing made sense. I was always extremely fatigued and tired, and anything I did, really compounded that. Had insomnia at night, and so that made more weight gain. Really didn't have a whole lot of friends just because I wasn't talking. I was just trying to get through the day. After we got married and started having children, the seizures became much more worse, more often. And then we had our first daughter, and she's extremely mechanical. However, she was really struggling with reading. And that led into, we noticed, writing, all the letters were backwards. Some of them were capital letters instead of lowercase letters. And it just progressively got worse. However, she was one that could take anything apart and put it all back together. So I knew there was something going on. She was not interested in school because school was so difficult. She could tell you how to spell any word, just couldn't write it down on paper. And as I started learning, I first came upon someone who introduced me to iridology. Iridology in some ways is similar to acupuncture in that all the acupuncture marks, they have them on your feet, they have them on your back, they have them on your hands, and certain areas are for each organ in our body. We have the same thing in the eyes. And so as I took pictures of people's eyes, and I went through a training from a trained iridologist who was taught by Dr. Bernard Jensen. He's considered the father of iridology. Then we learned which organs were weak in different people and where their strengths were. and what they needed so that they could turn those weak areas, get them cleaned out and make them strengths. And that's when I really started learning how key nutrition and food is. So, some people, have no problem eating wheat and dairy. It helps sustain them. It makes it so that they have a good breakfast in the morning and they're fine. They've got lots of energy. Well, if you give it to somebody who has a congested lymph system, that can actually make that lymph system more congested. And then that person can end up with big neck, big hands, big arms, big legs, and that affects circulation, blood pressure, and kidney function. And so going to the doctor and getting treatment for the kidney function when one of the main causes can be the lymph system and diet is just masking the problems.
Okay. The swelling. So my wife has celiacs.
Okay.
She definitely gets more bloated and has more swelling when she eats gluten.
Right.
So is that her body reacting, or is that based off of like some other factors as well?
I have found from those people who are celiac, and I have myself and my son and my daughter are also celiac, that it's not truly celiac for most people. What it is they're having a reaction to the Roundup in the grain. And so they're allergic to Roundup, which is used here in the United States to grow our grains. And we receive most of our grains from Ukraine, about 80%, and they use Roundup also. If you can go to travel to Italy or places in Europe, Roundup is banned. So a lot of people can eat pizza and bread and pastas and all kinds of desserts, and they're like, I don't feel sick, I don't get bloated, I don't have any joint pain. Wow, what is this? I'm having a great time. Well, they don't have Roundup in any of their grains, and also genetically modified foods are actually illegal over there. And so then they come back home and they're thinking, I'm fine, I feel great. And they start eating the way they've been eating over in Italy. And also the bloating comes back, the joint pain comes back, the brain fog is back. And it's just a vicious cycle.
Dang, that I wish I'm gonna have my wife listen to this because it's very powerful. With someone who has celiac disease, and we can talk about other things as well. With that Roundup, is there like ways to avoid it? Because a lot of time, like I get my bread and grain stuff from Walmart, like or Winco. That's like where we shop.
Right.
Does all of it have Roundup in it?
All of it.
Okay. I guess where can we go to find different?
Actually, there is a farm in Utah now that I've just partnered with, and they sell einkorn grain. And einkorn grain is the ancient grain. So it's not the genetically modified grain. When they genetically modified the wheat, what they did is they sprayed it with Roundup, and they have it actually in the seeds so they can harvest it sooner. And when they put the Roundup into the seed, it raised the gluten level, and they harvest it in about a third of the time. So the grain isn't even fully grown, meant to be harvested yet. And they're harvesting it sooner and faster, and they can grow 3 times as much on 1 acre. The einkorn does not have any Roundup in it. It is the ancient wheat. And a lot of people who are celiac don't have the bloating and the pain that they did with the regular rolls or wheat. So I can send you that message, that information, and you'd be able to get the flour there with them. I am not sure if they sell pastas and breads like already made.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely would want gluten-free products and to buy organic. Definitely has got to be a must.
Okay. Now, Is there any I know I'm sticking to this topic because it's so interesting. Is there any Roundup in gluten-free products? Would it be different things?
That's why you want to buy the organic,
Okay.
because organic means no pesticides, no herbicides. And so that's your best bet for buying a bread or rolls or pastas. And however, I know for myself, even buying organic here, I react, I get bloated. So I use like zucchini noodles, spaghetti squash, something like that. And with the sauce, that if I'm gonna have a pasta, or if I had to have gastric bypass surgery because I used to weigh over 300 pounds. And I was in liver failure at the time. So uh, due to that, I don't tolerate like rice or rice noodles very well. So I'll use zucchini noodles, and or I'll use cucumbers, or I'll use seaweed with cauliflower rice. And then I'll put in cucumber, carrots, avocado with whatever I want for like sushi. Like if it may be some shrimp or if it's some salmon, I personally take it and make sure it's cooked, because raw fish does carry parasites, and parasites cause a lot of problems that we don't think about. And whenever you go to a sushi place, they do sprinkle an anti-parasitic powder on it before they serve it to you. So that's one thing most people don't know about.
Yeah, for someone who I and my wife love eating sushi, I did not know that until
Yes.
you told me.
So, well, you think about the fish, all right, they're catching the fish. It's got to be put on ice. They need to have received it within 24 hours. And then they're going to wash it and clean it. But during travel, those parasites can be growing and it's raw. So it was out in the wild. Anything out in the wild, even when you go hunting for ducks or deer or anything, you have a higher incidence of having parasites because they're not like your dog or your cat that you take and you give them a deworming every couple of months. You know, they were a wild animal, and we need it to be wild so we get the higher omegas, but we also don't think about, hey, they're swimming in our oceans. Our oceans are not some of the cleanest places right now. And one of the main ways to kill off parasites is to cook the food.
Right.
So this all affects our health, and it explains a lot as we go into allergies are not normal, insomnia is not normal, food intolerances is not normal. That's why we need to get back to really the kitchen being the best place in the house. And because then you have total control. You can make whatever you want. You can make anything at any restaurant you normally go to, and you can eat it and enjoy it without having to worry, you know, are you going to have the bloating? I always ask myself, is the bloating and the stomach pain worth it? Is it worth the way I feel the next day or even that night? Is it worth the cost? So sometimes when I'm like, okay, yeah, I want to go out with friends and they're eating sushi, I'm like, okay, I'll let them eat sushi, but I'm going to get some teriyaki chicken instead, or I'm going to get a roll that it's cooked. So I can still be there enjoying being around them and, you know, just hanging out with some friends. However, I'm not going to be getting, whether it's the gluten I need to avoid eggs. I mean, eggs cause me to have seizures. Asian food has tons of eggs in it, whether it's the wrappers, the sauces, or put into any dishes.
Yeah, what you just said reminds me. It's like when you drink alcohol, you also got to think, do I want the hangover after as well?
Exactly.
It's like when we eat food, do I want the back end of things?
Right. Is it worth it?
Yeah,
And sometimes we forget how bad it can be.
we are a forgetful people, but I'm so
Yes.
glad that we have people just like you to help remind us of these things. I'd love to jump over to another topic of you being a health coach. You mentioned that like even being a health coach and in the industry, everyone's different. Everyone's specific in certain different areas.
Right.
What made you want to be a health coach?
At first, it wasn't something that that's what my passion was, or that's what it was. As I was learning about iridology and how much now control I had over food, and the time that was being taken away because I was so tired, so fatigued, weight gain, no energy. I couldn't do things with my kids. I was having seizures all the time. At first, I just wanted to get my life back. And then, my daughter was diagnosed with dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dysgraphia. So she has all three of them. It was making school miserable, and it was leading to a lot of bullying in school. And so she really didn't want to go to school. She had a hard time. But if I could use food to help her life be better so that she could come out of her shell and she could make friends and participate in plays or sports or anything, that's really that is so awesome. I mean, to be able to change your life. And what some people are, oh, that takes too much time. You're totally changing the directory of how someone's life is going to go. And then we saw it even more with my son, who is autistic and has Asperger's. He has ADD and ADHD. He wasn't diagnosed until he was 15. And we heard the you'll nevers from all the professionals. You will never graduate. You will never drive. He will never live independently. He won't be able to manage his own money. He's not going to have any friends, whatever. However, the kid I saw at home was one that spoke Hebrew, Latin, and Greek fluently, read it, wrote it, translate it. He could tell you when the earth was created, which dynasty certain dinosaurs came on which continent, which kings
Wow.
and emperors ruled. And he also related all the scriptures, and he did it photographically. So it was all by memory. But however, because he was a little different at school, he was put down not only by teachers, but also by the kids. And we're the role model for these students. So if the adults can do it, the kids look at us, okay, then I can get away with it too.
Yeah.
And now he lives in Utah. He works. He's an industrial electrician. He drives. He went on a mission. He manages his own money. He lived in Alaska for 2 years. Everything they said that he would never do, he's accomplished and more. And that was by changing his diet.
That is so powerful. Just changing your diet can do that. Because
We
someone,
changed, yeah, sorry.
no, go ahead.
We changed his diet. We had to add digestive enzymes. We had to add different nutrients because he was very deficient in several ways. And I figured out with the help of some doctors which organs were not working and why he stopped growing as a teenage boy. I mean, teenage boys usually eat you out of house and home, and they grow like there's no tomorrow. However, at 12 years old, he stopped growing for 2 years. And so we knew this wasn't normal. And the doctors were like, oh, this is just him, And I was like, no. So once we started to figure out and learn the way his body works and what his body needs, then all of a sudden he grew 4 inches in 2 months.
Goodness.
So now
What
he's 6'6".
you said 6'6"?
Yes.
Wow, I'm 6'3". So whenever I think of
Okay.
people taller than me, because everyone always tells me I'm tall, but people like my brother who's 6'5" and 6'6", I'm like, good job. You can definitely reach the top shelf a lot better than I can. That's so powerful, though. I hope people are listening to this because it's so important what you just said with a diet. So many people are looking for the temporary fixes. Sadly, like medication, a lot of them, it's not for a permanent fix to make you feel better, because
No.
we're the pharmacies, the people who make the drugs and everything, they're not there to make a permanent fix. There are good people in there, obviously, but they're there
Right.
to make money. And
Yeah.
if you make a permanent fix, you're going to have money for short term, but you're not going to have like that recurring cash flow coming in. And so a lot of the drugs aren't aren't made for creating permanent relief. It's more for that temporary relief until the next thing happens. Then you got to do it again and again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
And you just proved, like, through I'm going to say hardship. It feels hard to me, but like the hardship that you did with your kids of changing their diet, of doing that for a short term, maximized the output on the other end.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, pharmaceutical industry takes a lot of money to keep going. I do know of a couple of doctors who, actually they're both chiropractors, who, when you think of a chiropractor, you got a sore neck, you can't turn your head, you want to go to a chiropractor. Okay, they're going to give you an adjustment, but they're planning on you getting a sore neck again. Because once your body gets used to, going out of place in that one position, you're going to wake up again with another sore neck. How do you think it would work if that chiropractor made it so you never needed to come back to them for a sore neck again?
It'd be awesome for sure.
I actually know of a chiropractor. Her practice has grown so much. She's had to remodel her office 3 times to make it bigger. She worked over 100 hours a week seeing patients, and it was because she relieved their pain. Not only was it pain from misalignment, but pain from, say, inflammation. Okay, some of it was due to injuries and some was due to illnesses. So they started talking and telling all their friends, and then their friends started coming. Her practice exploded, and she had to hire on more doctors and train them in what she was doing. And then she had to hire on more assistants, and then she had to make the building bigger again. And now she's done it 3 times. And now she's training people all over the world. And she's seeing professional athletes as well as celebrities, because she gets rid of this pain and she just keeps on peeling the layers back until she gets right to the core of the matter. And people have been able to go on and live their lives when they were believed that they had some very chronic illnesses that caused joint pain and pains throughout their body at different days, and dizziness and insomnia and the brain fog and lack of energy. And so her practice has just exploded. Now she's in her 70s and she mainly does teaching, and has teaching in Oregon and all over the world. And her practice did nothing but explode. Then that should tell you how many people we have who are sick. And once they found her and the methods that she used, they were able to get their life back. And there are some times where they've had to come back and see her again. But for the most part, they're not on medications, and they have their life, and they can live the life that they were intended to live instead of where they were at because of an injury or because of the side effects of medications, just putting the Band-Aid on it.
I love those people. I really do. Those people who just make a dent and a transformation in an industry that makes it, that a lot of people see as temporary happiness. You brought up chiropractic. My wife and I had a really bad back injury back in high school, and it led to, when I was working at the produce section at Walmart, that it would just get inflamed and it
Oh,
would hurt. And sometimes I would be laying in bed for like a day or two, trying to recover from like certain things. Maybe I pulled it or something. Then I went to the chiropractor, and over the weeks, he was able to get it moving, get it back to where it was supposed to be, because it got the tears in the muscle made two of the spinal things be touching each other, and there wasn't a gap in between, which was causing the back pain. But then after that, he's just like, yeah, you can come in every so often to get it fixed. And I thought to myself, what if I don't have to? Like, what can I do to not come back in? Like, I don't want to use my chiropractor as a fix or something to get it done to where I have to be within miles of him every week or two, right? But what if I can change it? What if I can do something different? And from your example with what your friend or acquaintance did, like, she transformed it to where she did it in a way that you didn't have to come back.
Right. And part of that is also teaching people how to decrease their stress, because stress plays on our hormones, which, when hormones are out of balance, cause a whole host of different illnesses. And then you want to change your diet so your diet's not stressful to your body. And there are lots of foods that we eat every day that are very stressful to the body. And they taste great, and they're creamy, and they're delicious. And that's part of getting that addiction to them. We want that feeling of, oh, this is so good. There's a cost when things are so good.
Yeah.
Not saying food has to taste terrible, because it doesn't. It can be something that's really enjoyed, however, within boundaries.
You know, I'd love to get your thought on this. A couple of years back, it goes along with this. A couple of years back, I went to Tony Robbins' Unleash the Power Within event that he does. One of the people there, he gave this challenge to where it was like, give up 4 things for 10 days. It was like added sugars, dairy, meat, and I believe types of oil were in there as well.
Yep.
And so I did it for 10 days. And I felt like I was starving myself at first because I wasn't used to it. So I didn't know the options that there were to be able to replace it. But an interesting thing happened. At the end of the 10 days, days 9 and 10, water started tasting good again.
Uh-huh.
Can you do you have any thoughts about the why in that?
We're so used to sugar. I mean, and sugar is the most powerful drug on the planet, because everything has got to be sweet. I mean, what do we start our kids off of with? We start them off with fruit, apples. One of the very worst things you can do, because what you really want them to be used to is bitters. You want them to be used to things that are sour, and their salads and the greens can taste great, but you need to get them used to the lettuce and the spinach and the kale and the romaine and the beet tops. And those have far more nutrients in them. And you want to just, that's all you want to feed them, are greens for like the first couple of years. Don't give them anything sweet. Even milk is sweet. Okay. So don't give them anything that's, because that's how children get very addicted to, and why they won't eat vegetables is they're looking for that sweet taste. All right. And now when you buy those, I have 4 grandsons, and so they get like applesauce in the package they can suck it out of. Well, those apples have been genetically altered. First, they're size of the softballs. Apples 50, 100 years ago were the size of maybe a baseball, not a softball.
Yeah.
But when they genetically modified them, they raised the sugar level. Now, why would you do that? Get people hooked. Okay, so it may say that it has a Honey Crisp, a red delicious apple in it, and it's organic, but the sugar level in it is extremely high. Okay, so that's what they want now, is they'll only eat something that is sweet. Okay. And when you get stressed, I know for women, most women either want coffee or they want chocolate or both. Okay. Well, you're giving yourself the sugar. Chocolate, if it's dark chocolate, you're low in magnesium most likely, because dark chocolate does have some magnesium in it, and magnesium is a natural essential salt that it helps you to relax. It helps just okay. But then that's only good for a few minutes and you're like, I need more chocolate because it helps me to relax. And then before you know it, you eaten half a bag of this chocolate that had all these calories in it, and you're like, oh crud, now what? This is gonna cost me. And just take some minerals. So take some minerals, get your magnesium, get your potassium, get your zinc, your boron, your selenium that are really needed, and most people are severely deficient in. And you'll be surprised at how well you sleep at night. You'll be surprised that you're not yelling at your kids because you took your essential salts and minerals in the morning, and it helps you to be calm and to relax and to have more patience. Okay.
Can you find those? Where do you find those? Just in like the tablet type form?
No, you want it. This is a liquid and it comes from the ocean, up around Russia, where it's very cold and still clean. And so I can send you a link for that. It's they're called Quinton hypertonic minerals. So it tastes like salt water. It's not good tasting.
Okay.
It's extremely salty. And for those people who say my doctor tells me not to eat salt, to go on a low salt diet, I'm just gonna let everybody know, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. Always check with your doctor first. However, table salt is far different than minerals. Table salt is iodized salt, and sometimes they'll add, something to it. However, it doesn't have your potassium, your phosphorus, and your minerals in balance. So that can cause some health challenges for people. When they get their minerals, though, like myself, I have high blood pressure from the gastric bypass because I'm iron deficient. So I take iron every morning. When I take the iron, a few minutes later, blood pressure is going down. Eating chocolate before you take iron cancels out the iron. So you can't have any dairy or chocolate before you take your iron.
Okay.
You also need vitamin C to absorb the iron and use the iron. All right. But then the other thing I take is a teaspoon of minerals. And since I'm getting everything in balance, then it also allows water to go into the cells instead of sitting in my wrists or my ankles or my legs and my feet. And now my blood pressure is going down because it's not so stressed and causing it to go up searching for those minerals.
Okay. And for everyone who's listening, all the links that we talk about, we can put them down in the description, so that everyone's able to have it. But that's very interesting, because I've heard about table salt, and it's like super iodinized.
Yeah, they add iodine into it. It's a synthetic form of iodine that your body can't use.
Gotcha. Man, who knew such a diet, like who knew diet could be so important? I love to quickly. Yeah, extremely. That obviously that's what the whole thing is about. I love to quickly jump to kind of the mental side of things, because we talked about changing your diet. What can you do to change your mindset about different foods, what's healthy, what's not healthy, what can you do to start, just first couple steps to start changing your mindset to start adapting more of a healthy lifestyle?
First, like you said before, get rid of, if you're using corn oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, soy, even avocado oil. Avocado oil is a seed oil or grapeseed oil. Get rid of all of those. Use your organic coconut oil or your organic first pressed olive oil. Those are the only two oils I use. And they have the good fats in them, the omegas in them that your brain needs and your body needs. Okay. So that's one of the first things. And the only thing that I use white sugar for is to feed the hummingbirds. That's it. I get rid of the white sugar. So
And for those who don't know, what is white sugar? Like, what is it?
it's in everything, but it's usually what people buy, your white cane sugar, and you use it if you bake things at home.
Gotcha.
It's gonna be in those, but if you look on the ingredients for any bread, they're usually breads and pastas, they're usually putting the cane sugar in that. All your sodas, your juices, you know, it's right, this ready to go convenience has a high cost. Okay, we need to get back to basically how our great grandmother and great grandfather did things. Now you have a lot of people who are having urban farms. Our government is actually putting a lot of money into urban farmers. And so it's easier to find people who are selling eggs, people who are selling fresh vegetables from overflow that they grew in their garden. Farmers markets are more readily available in communities. I know when I go to a farmer's market, they have to provide certification that they actually grew it. So some farmers markets in the past, you may get vendors there who go to Costco or Sam's Club or Walmart, pick up a whole bunch of vegetables and fruits, and then say that they bought it and resell it. You're going to want to look for certifications, not only to sell, but people who have certifications to grow. Is it grown organically? Where was it grown? How is it grown? Talk to your vendors. They're happy to give you the information. And those are going to be a lot of your fruits and vegetables. Not only will they taste really good, my grandsons hate vegetables. Okay. Until they get to my house. They love being out in the garden, picking all the cabbage moths off, getting the ants off things, and picking the tomatoes. They love to pick their tomatoes. They eat the lettuce. They're like, oh, Grandma, this tastes so much better than what if my mom or dad makes me buy. I don't like the stuff that they have. Why is yours so different? Okay, well, the lettuce that they get at the grocery store, at some big chain stores that we have, it's pretty bitter. But if you get those young leaves fresh out of the garden, they're much sweeter. And it's a natural sweetness that, you know, is needed in our foods. I don't have to harvest it a week before it's ready. So I'm getting all the nutrients that I can from the soil, and it's chock full of vitamin D because it gets a lot of sunlight. And they'll eat the tomatoes, they'll eat the lettuce, they'll eat the cucumbers. I'll grow pumpkins and make it into pumpkin pie, let them carve up stuff, grow sunflowers. They think it's so much fun to be in a sunflower tent and harvesting the sunflower seeds. I make zucchini bread for them and they'll eat it. Whereas if they're at their mom and dad's, they won't even try it. They won't touch it. They don't want any vegetables at all. And you know, their parents are like, why will they eat them here? And I'm like, well, they're fresh out of the garden. You know, so the taste is just, I'm sure you have tasted a tomato that someone grew in the garden, and then you've tasted the difference from someone you got at a big grocery store.
Different. So different.
Yes. So, along with that, you know, the nutrients is so different.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to get back into our lives. And so that we can, when our kids, you have more and more kids now who are having panic attacks, who are having anxiety. And some of the issue is they're low in amino acids. Amino acids are your tryptophan, your serotonin, your GABA. Those help you all to be happy, to be relaxed, to be joyful, to have peace, to sleep. And the melatonin you're getting in the gummy is not the same melatonin that you need. It's a lot of like Jello and corn syrup and some food coloring and a synthetic version of melatonin, but it's not the melatonin that your body needs.
Yeah. Thank you for those steps. For a parent as myself and those who are parents that are listening, who have and are starting out with just young families, and maybe not even young families, even kids that are like 8-10 years old, who
Right.
don't like vegetables,
Right.
who really just like the kids only want the applesauce, the chicken nuggets, and everything in between. What can we do as parents to start introducing to our kids to help them get more vegetables and get more of what they need?
What's really popular around is, I know we have near us, it's called the Farmer's Juicery. And so instead of taking my grandkids out for like Jamba juice or smoothie, I'll take them to the Farmer's Juicery. The rule is they have to have at least one vegetable in their smoothie. Okay, so they can get a smoothie with blueberries and strawberries in it, but it's either going to have lettuce or kale or something else in it. And they're juicing it right there. They don't have the syrups that they're putting into it. They're juicing it right there. And they can choose whichever one they want. And so they can start to, they don't want it because the vegetables don't taste good. All right. So if you can grow some tomatoes and tell them, okay, try this. They're going to be really hesitant because they're used to a very bitter tomato. But as you know, a tomato from the garden tastes totally different than a tomato from the store.
Yeah.
And be willing to try it with them. Okay. Romaine leaves, because they're long, they're V-shaped. It makes great tacos. Put taco meat in there.
Really?
Some chopped up onions, and some pico on it. I like cilantro, avocado, parsley. Put that on it with the yeah, they make great tacos.
Oh, that sounds so good. I want to make one right now.
You can take cucumbers and take like a potato peeler and peel a cucumber lengthwise, so you're getting the long strips, and then put them so that they're overlapping. So it's kind of like you lay one down, you lay the next one halfway on the first one, and you keep doing that. Now you take some cauliflower that you've riced, just steam it lightly, put it in there, on there. Then you mash up some avocado, put it on there. You can take some teriyaki chicken, or you can take some cooked salmon, put it on there, and you roll it up just like a sushi roll. It's really good.
Next time I'm over where you're at, I'm coming to your house for dinner. That sounds so good.
You can do the same thing with like a seaweed wrap.
Mm-hmm.
And you just slice it a quarter of the ways up, so that you can take half the seed and you can put some rice or some lunch meat and some vegetables and some avocado, and you fold it. And as you fold it up and over, it makes it like a sandwich. You're not getting all the carbs, but you have something that's easy to eat, whether it's a hamburger with onions, and if you want lettuce in there, however you like on your burger, but you're not getting all the carbs, but you still have something that's like a sandwich and it's filling.
Yeah.
Okay. It's really good.
Oh, that sounds so good. Renee, where can people find you?
I have a community on School, SKOOL, under More Natural, and I post information on health tips, and I also do parasite testing, vitamin D testing, and so a few other things for those who have more chronic illnesses. I do nutritional consultations. I also am on TikTok under More Natural. And so you can find me at either of those two places.
Awesome. And those links, we'll put them down in the description so you'll be able to find Renee really nice and easy. For the final question, I told you about this before, but what I like to do at the end of each episode, I got it from someone else's podcast. I wish I could remember the name. But what they do is they ask the final question. And the final question isn't something from me, but it's from a past interviewer.
Okay.
So they say a question without any context. You don't know them, they won't know you. And then the next interviewee gets to answer it. So let me pull it up quick. Okay, here's the question for you. What is the legacy you want to leave behind? How do you want to be remembered?
Well, my goal is to create a foundation where parents and families can go and they can have the nutritional consulting and protocols and treatments done without worrying about cost of it, because this is all something insurance doesn't cover. And then as part of that, they can learn skills, the parents, so that if they have to leave their job to be with their child, they'll be able to come to a place where that they can continue to work and make some money to support their family while they're getting nutritional therapies available. That's my goal, is to build that.
I love it. Thank you so much, Renee, for being on today. And thank you, listeners, for joining us. That's been another episode of Light Beyond Limits. If you found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. But even more important, go ahead and follow Renee on her school account as well as on TikTok. And until next time, my friends, my champions, continue to light up the world, continue to be the best version you can be. And always remember, you are already at the place where you need to be to get to your next level. So take the next steps to get there. We'll see you on the next episode of Light Beyond Limits.